I never thought I'd be standing here today, sharing something so personal, but here I am because what happened to me wasn't just a moment, it was a divine encounter that reshaped everything I thought I knew about God, faith, and even money. It all started during a routine surgery, or at least what was supposed to be routine. I remember lying on that hospital bed, feeling a mix of fear and peace, like God was near. But I couldn't quite grasp why. Then, everything went dark. I flatlined for 9 minutes and 12 seconds. In those moments, I wasn't just unconscious, I was gone. And that's when I met him. Jesus. I can't fully describe what it felt like to be in his presence, but it was like every fear, every doubt, every question I'd ever had just melted away. He spoke to me not in words I heard with my ears, but in a way that resonated deep in my soul. And what he showed me about why so many of us struggle financially, it changed everything. Jesus revealed to me that financial struggles aren't always what they seem. For so long, I'd prayed for breakthroughs, for blessings, for relief from the constant pressure of bills and debt. I'd even wondered if God was punishing me for something I'd done wrong. But Jesus showed me that my struggles weren't a punishment, they were protection. He explained that premature wealth, the kind I'd been begging for, could have destroyed me. It could have pulled me away from him, made me prideful, or distracted me from my purpose. He reminded me of Proverbs 32:8-9, where it says, "Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord I need?'" That hit me hard. I realized that my financial struggles were actually a shield, keeping me close to him and protecting me from the dangers of materialism and self. But it didn't stop there. Jesus also showed me that my financial struggles weren't random. They were part of a spiritual battle. He explained that the enemy, Satan, targets the chosen ones specifically because he knows the impact we're meant to have. He doesn't want us to fulfill our God-given missions, so he uses financial blockages to discourage us, to make us feel like God has abandoned us. I remember Jesus pointing out Ephesians 6:12 to me. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. NIV. It was like a light bulb went off in my spirit. I realized that every time I felt overwhelmed by bills or frustrated by lack, it wasn't just a financial issue, it was a spiritual attack. And knowing that changed how I approached my struggles. Instead of feeling defeated, I started fighting back in prayer, declaring God's promises over my life. Jesus also showed me that my financial struggles had a purpose. They weren't just happening to me, they were happening for me. He explained that God uses financial hardship to refine us, to teach us dependence on him, and to prepare us for the blessings he has in store. He reminded me of the Israelites in the wilderness, how God provided manna for them, daily Exodus, Genesis 4. They couldn't store it up or hoard it. They had to trust God to provide every single day. That's what he was teaching me, to rely on him completely, not on my own ability to figure things out. He also showed me that he was testing my faithfulness. Would I still trust him when the bank account was empty? Would I still serve him when the bills were piling up? Those questions hit me hard because I realized that in the past, I hadn't always passed those tests, but Jesus assured me that his grace was enough and that he was using my struggles to prepare me for greater responsibility in the future. One of the most profound things Jesus revealed to me was about generational cycles. He showed me that many of my financial struggles weren't just about me. They were tied to patterns in my family. My parents had struggled with money, and so had their parents' debt, bad financial decisions, and a scarcity mindset seemed to run in our bloodline. But Jesus made it clear that he had chosen me to break those cycles. He reminded me of Galatians 3:13-14, which says, "Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us, so that by faith we might receive the promise of the Spirit." NIV. I realized that my struggles weren't just about my own life, they were about setting my family free for generations to come. It was a heavy responsibility, but also an incredible honor. Jesus was showing me that my faithfulness in the midst of hardship wasn't just for me, it was for my children, my grandchildren, and everyone who would come after me. He also showed me that his timing is perfect. I'd been praying for financial breakthroughs for years, and I couldn't understand why they hadn't come. But Jesus explained that he wasn't withholding blessings from me, he was protecting me. He said that many people receive financial blessings before they're ready, and it ends up destroying them. They become prideful, forget God, or misuse what he's given them. He reminded me of the parable of the talents in Matthew 25-14-30, where the master entrusts his servants with different amounts of money based on their ability to handle it. I realized that God was preparing me, teaching me to be faithful with little, so that he could trust me with more. It wasn't about how much I had, it was about my heart. Was I content in him? Was I trusting him even when I couldn't see the way forward? Those were the questions he was asking me, and they completely shifted my perspective. One of the hardest but most transformative lessons Jesus taught me was about contentment. For so long, I'd tied my happiness and peace to my financial situation. If I had money, I felt secure. If I didn't, I felt like a failure. But Jesus showed me that true peace doesn't come from a bank account, it comes from him. He reminded me of Philippians 4:11-13, where Paul says, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I can do all this through him who gives me strength, NIV. That verse hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized that my financial struggles were teaching me to find my worth and security in Christ alone. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. But slowly, I began to shift my focus. Instead of obsessing over what I didn't have, I started thanking God for what I did have, his presence, his love, and his promises. And that gratitude changed everything. Jesus also showed me that my struggles were setting me up for a testimony. He explained that every trial I faced, every bill I couldn't pay, every moment I had to trust him, it was all building a story that would one day inspire others. He reminded me of 2 Corinthians 1:2-3-4, which says, Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. And I realized that my pain had a purpose. It wasn't just about me, it was about the people who would hear my story and see God's faithfulness in the midst of my struggles. That gave me a new sense of hope and determination. I wasn't just surviving, I was being prepared to help others. One of the most powerful moments during my encounter with Jesus was when he showed me the bigger picture. He explained that my financial struggles weren't just about me or my family, they were part of a larger spiritual battle. He reminded me that Satan doesn't attack people randomly. He targets those who have a calling and a purpose. He showed me how the enemy had been trying to use financial lack to discourage me, to make me doubt God's goodness, and to keep me from stepping into the plans God had for me. But Jesus also showed me that every attack was an opportunity for victory. He reminded me of Romans 8:28, which says, And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose, and that truth became my anchor. No matter how hard things got, I knew God was working everything out for my good and his glory. Jesus also taught me the importance of perseverance. He showed me that my faithfulness in the midst of hardship was building something eternal. He reminded me of James 1:2-4, which says, Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything, NIV. I realized that my struggles weren't a sign of God's absence, they were a sign of his presence. He was refining me, shaping me, and preparing me for what was ahead. And that gave me the strength to keep going, even when I felt like giving up. I started to see my financial struggles not as a curse, but as a training ground for the blessings God had in store for me. As I stood there in his presence, Jesus gave me a promise. He said that my financial breakthrough wasn't just coming, it was already on its way. But he also made it clear that it wouldn't look like what I expected. He reminded me of Isaiah 55:8-9, which says, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. NIV. I realized that I'd been limiting God by trying to dictate how and when he should bless me. but his ways are so much greater than ours. He wasn't just going to give me money, he was going to transform my heart, my mindset, and my life. And that was worth more than any amount of money could ever be. Today, I stand here as a living testimony of God's faithfulness. My financial struggles didn't disappear overnight, but my perspective did. I've learned to trust God in ways I never thought possible. I've seen Him provide in the most unexpected ways, and I've experienced His peace in the midst of uncertainty. My journey isn't over, but I know now that my struggles were never in vain. They were preparing me, refining me, and setting me up for a testimony that would bring glory to His name. If you're going through financial struggles today, I want to encourage you, don't give up. Your breakthrough is coming. God sees you, He's with you, and He's using your struggles to prepare you for something greater. Trust Him, lean on Him, and let Him write your story, because when God is in it, even the hardest seasons can become the most beautiful testimonies.